So that's like a basic sea walk movement. How you doing, guys? Tommy here. I'm going to show you the sea walk male stripper body movement, okay? So the sea walk is short for like clown walk or crip walk, whichever way you want to take it. It doesn't really matter. But what matters is the actual movement I'm going to show you, and it's this movement right here. So that's like a basic sea walk movement. I think it's technically like a sea walk variation, but let's just keep it simple. Let's just call that the sea walk, okay? So to start to teach you this movement, I've actually got to break down the fundamentals of the sea walk movement for you. And it's basically just footwork. So without further ado, let's go to the footwork. So with the footwork, you essentially want to think about hitting either a V position, because you can see right here how I'm creating a V effect, or if you're looking at your feet from a bird's eye point of view, you can create an arrow position. So it's always either a V or an arrow. This is the way I like to think of it. V's or arrows. Okay, it's never going to be anything different. Now, to begin the actual sea walk movement, we want to start off in a V position. So if you're looking at your feet, this will look like a V. Now the first step is a pivoting action with your toes and your heels. One leg will pivot on your toe and the other leg will pivot on its heel. You can never have anything different. It always has to be alternating heel and toe pivoting movement. Okay? So I'm going to move to my left. To do this, I'm going to get onto my toe with my left foot, and I'm going to get onto my heel with my right foot. From here, I'm just going to pivot, pivot, and drop. Now, if I want to move back, all I have to do is get back onto my toe here, onto my heel here, pivot, and drop. Okay? Now, once again, what we're doing here is we've got the V position and we've got the arrow position. All right? So, if I'm going to move to my right, I'm going to get onto my toe, I'm going to get onto my heel with my left leg, and I'm going to pivot, pivot, and drop. Same thing going back, heel on my left leg, toe on my right leg, pivot, pivot, and drop. Now, what we want to do now is we want to start putting that movement together now. So when you understand what's going on with the heels and the toes, you want to start lifting it up and dropping. Lifting it up and pivot and drop. Toe, heel, pivot, 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 drop. Toe, heel, toe, pivot, drop. Okay? Now, if this seems a bit overwhelming for you at the moment, lots of different toes and heels pivoting, different legs happening, it might seem a bit complicated. This is why I told you about the arrows and V's at the start. So just think about the V and the arrow and the V and the arrow and the V and the arrow and the V. Okay? So one more time, I'm going to show you the sea walk basic fundamental movement in nice slow motion now. And in real time, this is what the movement's going to look like. So now I'm going to show you the male stripper movement, the sea walk movement. So it's basically just this concept of what I just showed you right now, but we're going to take it back a notch. Now the start position of this movement is the actual arrow position, okay? An awkward position to be in, yes, but I will show you later on how you can actually transition into this position without you looking like an idiot, essentially. So whilst you're in the arrow position, all you're going to do is basically the movement that you've learned just before. You're going to get onto the heel and toe. You're going to do this pivot, but that's all you're going to do. You're going to pivot out and you're not going to drop. You're going to pivot out and then pivot in and then drop. So it's the heel toe. It's a pivot, pivot, drop. It's heel toe, pivot, pivot, drop. Heel toe, pivot, pivot, drop. Okay? So it's more of a flick out movement. A flick out to the side, flick out, and a flick out movement, as opposed to what we learned before, the fundamentals of the movement, which was the coming down to the ground. Okay? With this movement, we're going to flick it out, flick it out, flick it out. As you flick it out, make sure you really bring that heel out as well. The more you bring that heel out, you can really emphasize that movement. Really bring that heel out right there. So when you do this movement in its entirety, real time, it's going to look like this. Okay, so that's the sea walk movement. Now, I'm going to show you guys how you can get into this movement, like I said before, without looking silly, okay? So no one walks around the stage like this, ready to bust out the sea walk side-to-side movement. I think, like we've shown you with previous dance moves, one of the easier ways to really get into a position is to do a little jump into it. And I think that's kind of suitable for this situation because unless you've finished a move and you're already in this position, which is not really likely, it's kind of just easier to just walk towards whoever you're going to be dancing for and just, you can just kind of jump into the movement. And it doesn't have to be like a crazy jump like that. It's a little bit over the board, over top. It just has to be a little shuffle forward. A little shuffle forward. Just catch your body weight just a little bit. Just bend your knees just a little bit, just enough so you can get that nice pop with it, okay? So I'm going to show you front on with the jump into the movement. You can walk towards the girl and just, let me show you side on. One more time. Okay, so that's the basic sea walk movement right there. Now, how to use this movement? Well, you can use it on stage while you're performing, and if you want to add like a little bit of flair to your routine, if you've already done quite a lot of low body rolls, some hip grinding, some things going out to the side, and maybe you want to pick up the pace a bit, maybe show a little bit of class, a little bit of, you know, coolness to it, you can really bust out this move, okay? So there you have it, that's the sea walk. It's a cool little footwork move you can do as a male stripper to really impress the crowd, to add some flair to your routine, and just to overall just show some different elements to your dancing rather than just some hip grinding and some body rolls and some hip thrusts. It's cool to be able to show some different elements of your repertoire of dance moves. So I hope you've enjoyed this little tutorial. I hope that made sense. And if it seems overwhelming at first, you can't quite get your head around which heel is meant to go with which foot and which toe, and you're confused and you're lost, don't worry. Just break it down. Keep it simple and do it really slowly. Just keep doing it slowly, all right? Keep practicing the movement. Practice it right, and eventually over time, your muscle memory will take over. And then soon before you know it, you'll be able to just jump into the movement and just do it without really thinking, okay? So have fun with it, guys. Remember, keep practicing, don't lose heart. Stay tuned to the channel. Lots more videos coming. I'll see you next time.